Staying, all those methods that he mentioned are actually part of his fantasy. Or the food. Similarly, yeah, they had to make it look natural. They both had different kinds of challenges because of the way we were shooting the film. It had to look like it was really happening. So what we did was, we decided we had to shoot with one of them first, and then edit that entire chunk, and then feed it back to him so that he could respond to it like he's responding to a real phone call. So it was, within a 12-day period, we shot her, we edited her portions, we fed it to him, and whatever he had rehearsed in mind, suddenly, he had to forget everything and now match what is already set.
When we were recording her stuff, I was on my bed in my hotel room with the script in hand on the phone, feeding her the lines. And, which was awesome. And then when it came back and it was being fed back, I thought, did I really talk this slowly? Because I was speaking back with the camera, and there were a lot of times where it was hard to match the timing, the exact timing that I'd had lazing around in my hotel room while she was working hard. So some of the ends of phrases and lines are improv in some ways. And I'm sure in her situation too, there were some things that were improv as well in what you did in front of the camera, or?
No, I think Seema came prepared with her improv, because she like kept calling me from Bombay. He couldn't because he's from, so we used to Skype quite a bit. But with her, she used to keep calling me, and she used to say, "Can I do this with the Irish accent?" And like, Irish accent for why? I said, no, it sounds too preachy. If I do it with an Irish accent, I can make it look like a joke. And then she actually did it, and I'm like, wow, that sounds really good. So when she didn't pretty much change, and it was good she didn't change, because then it would have made it that much more difficult for him. So he knew the script, and he knew what she was saying, so he could play with that within the time he was getting it. 10 seconds or 20 seconds. How do you know? You know the size of our dialogues, like 25 second, 30-second long dialogues. And it was a continuous take, so he had to wait for those 25 seconds, emote it, and then at the end of those 25 seconds start speaking, right? So I think I had like a fantastic cast and a support cast, because it's not easy to just not have lines but be there in the car and have a presence. Especially Raja was like a first-time actor, so we were all very, very nervous about him. And I think a lot of you seem to like him. I'm going to go tell him he's going to.
For those of you who don't know Raja, he's a pretty huge critic online in Mumbai. So, and Sudhish as well, his second job next to directing is...
No, actually that's my first job.
So, it's been nice since you're here as a director. He's a huge critic as well in the Hindu newspaper in Chennai, film critic.
Yes?
So the question was Sudhish. I mean, the transition from a film critic to becoming a film director, you want to talk about that? How long have you been directing a film in your mind while trashing everybody else's film?
No, actually, strangely, I started writing my first film before I started taking up my job 10 years ago. My first film was something called That Four-Letter Word. It was written by me and my co-producer here, Murugan. Both of us wrote it together. It was basically about us, but that's what most first-time filmmakers do. We write about our attempts to make a film, and that's what we did too. The only difference being in our case that the first time around we shot with a high-profile cast, and then we couldn't finish the film, so we reshot the whole film. So I've been making films since for the last 10 years. I made That Four-Letter Word twice over. And this is a film which we made about 2 years, which we wrote about 2 years ago. We came to New York 2 years ago because we wanted to make sure we could get the New Year's Eve thing. We had a different cast there, we couldn't work out the date. So we were very keen to finish this year. And so we said, okay, let's just finish it, because we have footage of 2008, 2009, we can't wait too long. We have to catch the festivals now. And so 2 months ago, we finished the film from start to scratch, all the conversation portions, and I'm glad we were able to meet our deadlines, I hope.
All right, I'll ask a question. You were talking about how you feel that the movie.
Yeah. yeah. So the way we wrote the film, this was like the first draft, okay? What you see, it was the first draft of the script, just the conversation and nothing else. Then what happened was, before I wrote the second draft, I wanted to see if it's flowing well and organically. So what I did was, I paired up my friends, complete strangers, guys with girls, and I said, you guys talk on the phone with this girl, you guys talk with this girl, girls talk with these guys, and record 1 hour of the conversation and email it to me. So I had like 5, 6 sets of guys and girls do this, and it wasn't anything new in terms of what they were talking about, because being absolute strangers, they would start off with discussing pop culture, you know, movies I like or music I like, and then go on to books, and before it ultimately comes down to their relationship, where they are in their life and stuff like that. So that wasn't interesting for me. What is interesting for me was what happened to these 6 people. You know, one was like this geek who was chatting with a girl way out of his league, so he was actually sitting with Google in front of him. She'd ask him a question, he'd Google for it immediately and say, oh yeah, that one, yeah, okay, and he would talk more. And so we decided that that's interesting. So similarly, the second story, the girl was already engaged, and she just led him on for a bit because she was enjoying the phone calls, and they chatted for a month, after which she said, hey, I'm engaged, man. I didn't know how to tell you this before, but you know, we were having fun. The third relationship, they couldn't do the phone call, so they chatted into the night. They chatted for like 5, 6 hours, and the girl already had a boyfriend, and at the end of the phone call, she thought what she had with her boyfriend wasn't real, and this was the real deal. And the guy was this utter romantic, so he had his own idea of, you know, what kind of girl he wanted to chat up with, and the girl I had set him up was, I shouldn't be mean, but she was like, so obviously they were definitely not going to like each other. So it was, you know, I felt like a complete bastard doing that. And so we did these 5 stories, but basically what we understood out of it was for any relationship to work, there had to be equal effort from both parties, and I thought that's an interesting point which we could bring out through the film, because this was just a phone call. This is just one relationship. There's so many other possibilities when 2 strangers talk to each other. So we thought it would be interesting if they're going to tell each other stories into the night, and hence it becomes an all-night phone call. So we actually had them act out a few scenes, like, you know, a story, fictitious stories. Like first, he would talk about a geek who says guys often pretend to be who they are not, and we go into that geek story, which you will be able to find on YouTube on deleted scenes. So we treated that whole story as a sitcom, because it was like the first stage of a relationship, which is like a comedy, right? You're trying to be your best, you're trying to put your best foot forward, and so it's all fun. And then we wanted to show the disconnect between movies and life. So we thought we could do that kuch kuch hota hai bit, where, you know, people want different things from the same relationship. The Rahul and Anjali, Shah Rukh and Kajol, they come panting. They want to tell each other something. It's a very popular scene. So we spoofed that scene. We actually didn't spoof it much, but yeah. These guys recreated that scene, but they spoke in English. We used the original soundtrack to show the disconnect between the life, and this is also on YouTube. So these 2 scenes were working for commercial relief, but they turned out to be too long. The first sitcom turned out to be like 5.5 minutes, and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was another 3 minutes. And then they also sing a song in the course of this. They sing Pocket Full of Rainbows, which was another 2 minutes, which we removed. Because we had all these stories, we also needed to resolve these stories. So we had a very different ending. We had the guy from the first story meet the girl from the second story. So all that we'll slowly be releasing online, but which is why a 96-minute film became 73 minutes, because we decided to focus. We said, okay, let's not tell too many stories, let's not get confused. Let's just stick to this phone call. If people want to know about what else they spoke, they can always go to YouTube and check out the deleted scenes.
You talk too much, brother.